Hi there. So I thought it might be helpful to do a video on how I actually managed to kind of structure my revision and general study throughout my A-level chemistry course. So half of this mostly aimed at year 12, how to revise, sort of revision guides, websites, YouTube channels, etc. And then the other half aimed at year 13, final revision kind of stuff. I'll leave timestamps, so do not worry. Cool. So first of all, textbooks and revision guides. You're going to need these, unfortunately. So there's a few basic ones I used. I don't need to go over the top of this. Like they will do the job, you know. So firstly, CGP revision guide. Great just before an exam, kind of last minute revision because it's all quite condensed. Really useful revision resource in that way. However, because it is so condensed, I feel like it's often lacking detail, and because I tried to cram so much into like one page, the font and the layout, it hurts my brain. Too much information at once in a way. I don't like it. Didn't really work for me like long term, but again, right before the exam, quite a good one. Loads of people love this. Then this is a weird one, but my chemistry teacher recommended this to kind of give me a different perspective on some of the key topics, which worked. Because this includes a lot of extra detail. It's a really old textbook, so completely different spec, OCR I think, and completely different topics, but it explains them in a way that I hadn't seen before, which really helped me to fully understand. But like I said, different spec, be wary of that. This third one, this is the classic one you get. I think you get it online for most schools. Really good because it's AQA, designed for the spec, etc. However, there's so much unnecessary information, and they over-explain things sometimes to the point where I'm just more confused than I was before I knew that the topic existed. So be wary of that. And also the questions, not helpful to an exam. I wouldn't even bother with them. I don't think I did a single one. But yeah, that's a necessary textbook you need. Finally, this little workbook I think is underrated. It's so good. Like, it's just loads of little exam questions. You can write in the book, however, there's not enough space. But that's fine. The answers in the back. It's a good little thing to, like, at the end of the lesson, maybe you want to test your understanding, have a little flick through that, pick some questions. Good. Good resource overall. Cool. And now, if you, like me, you don't like textbooks, you might learn better with videos. So there are a few YouTube channels I would highly recommend. Firstly, the Chemistry Tutor, amazing for covering content and also doing exam questions. He literally predicted my whole like A-level exam, so shout out to him. And also much more detail than other channels, which I really enjoy. Allery Chemistry, good for that final kind of in-depth revision. His PowerPoint videos hit every single point in the spec. Really good for organic as well, I found. But also good for pre-reading, just to introduce you to all the spec points for the topic. Elliot, everyone loves this guy. I watched some of his videos at the start, but then I feel like sometimes he doesn't go into enough detail for me. But it's good. It feels kind of like a lesson. He writes on the whiteboard. It's really cool. He covers difficult topics and makes them feel a bit like more accessible and easy to understand. He's also kind of funny, so that's good. Next, this I think it's like a school KA science or something, and they go through basically all the practicals in so much detail. Like it's the teacher in the lab doing the practical, explaining what's happening, why they're doing it, and what results you should get. This was really helpful for me because I feel like in my school they kind of just threw us into the practicals. There wasn't that much kind of explanation, so this is good. And then finally, my channel. I know I've just started, but I'm going to be doing a bunch of different topics, the hard ones, and practical videos as well, which I feel like sometimes were lacking for me. So stay around for that. And although I'm not a chemistry teacher, I've just done my A-levels. Like, I've been through the trenches. I feel your pain. So I feel like I have a unique perspective on what may be lacking in terms of resources and how to explain things in a way that is helpful to the exam also. Cool. Moving on. ChemGuide. This is a website. ChemGuide is my bestie. Much better than any textbook I got. Really clear. Every topic laid out in this nice little kind of menu. Really enjoy this. Diagrams are great. Website looks a bit weird, but that's okay because they explain things really well. So ChemGuide is a must. Next, this I only use for the risk assessment kind of stuff. So when you do your practicals, you're going to need to say, this is a hazard. Why is it a hazard? Because it can corrode your skin. Not fun. So you need risk assessments for that. You need to be able to say, I use this source to find out that X and Y are corrosive. This is great for that. I only use the student safety sheets. I haven't used the website. I think it's more aimed at teachers, so be aware of that. But the risk assessment stuff, really, really, really good. Cool. And then moving on, physics and maths tutor is like a classic. You need to use physics and maths tutor, otherwise you'll struggle. They have like literally every STEM subject, so that's quite good. All the exam questions you ever need, multiple specifications. They have all this extra stuff like little flashcards and model solutions and notes. I never really use this apart from the practical guides, but might be helpful to you. However, this website crashes every 10 minutes because there's so many ads on it. But I think it's worth it to get all those exam questions. Cool. Now, you need to, this is more aimed at year 12 because this is how to study. Basically, in year 12, how to get through year 12, make the most of it, do as much as you can to prepare for year 13. And then later, I'll move on to like the final revision that I did in year 13. So, I've broken this down to 3 steps. Number 1, pre-reading. I think most schools, surely you'll be set pre-reading. So your teacher's going to be like, okay, next week we're doing enthalpy change. And then you'll go away and you'll do your little research on your enthalpy change. This is really good because it means that you're already familiar with a topic before you even walk through the door, sit down in your classroom, right? And this means you can be more engaged in the lesson, be answering questions, putting your hand up, clarifying things, which is really helpful. You want to make the most of that lesson time because it's limited. So for this, you need to make notes because there's no point just skimming through a textbook. That's very passive. You're not retaining any of that, right? So alloy chemistry, really good for this. And then after, I would try a few exam questions just to see where we're at, you know? Next, in the lesson. Please go to your lessons, first of all, because they are a time where you can ask questions, can engage with a teacher, and basically clarify anything you don't understand. So anything that came up in the pre-reading where you were like, that doesn't really make sense to me, put your hand up, ask. You know, that's what that time is for. And I wouldn't worry too much about making like really nice, neat notes. Basically, just write down what the teacher says, if they tell you to write something down, and if not, then just focus on getting down all the example questions that they give you, because you can revise from these. Always write down the question, okay? And then, again, ask for clarification where necessary, and maybe even after the lesson, still not sure, ask the teacher for the PowerPoint they use, ask them for resources, whatever helps. Now, this might be the most important one. After the lesson, you can't just walk away and forget about your learning because then it's just going to leave your brain in 2 minutes, right? You need to consolidate that. How? Well, this is different for everyone. Personally, I typed up all my notes, not on the day of the lesson, but in a few days, hopefully, type up those notes. Make sure it's fresh in your head, right? And then it'll be easier to revise from this because my handwriting is awful. So when I actually got to revising, couldn't read any of it. So type up your notes if you're like me. Do some exam questions. If you're not doing exam questions, how are you ever going to do well in an exam? That's the main point of your A-levels. That's going to determine your grade. Get used to them. Physics and maths sheets are great for this. Maybe even try teach the topic to someone new, someone who studies, I don't know, biology or something, to see how well you can explain it. Cool. Now, this is more revision. This was me in year 13, struggling with my A-levels and trying to revise. So I hope you can learn from my mistakes, and if you follow this, you should be able to do well. So, step 1, print out the whole specification. Do this in school, don't waste your money at home. Next, we're going to pick 3 colours. For example, red, orange, green. And then we have to divide the whole spec into these colours. I'll tell you how to do that on the next slide. But also, get maybe a yellow highlighter and go through that spec and see wherever you need to memorize something, e.g. an equation, so, I don't know, oxygen and chlorine or something, water and chlorine, whatever. Highlight that in yellow, okay? Because then it'll be more clear as to what you need to learn and what you just need to know. Because memorizing doesn't require any skill. It can be done later through flashcards. So, like I said with the colours, red, orange, green. Let's start with red. So, imagine you're doing a topic, you're getting none of these questions correct, you're really struggling. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go through and make notes on each individual specification point. So, detailed notes. When it says explain the trend in solubility, you're going to explain that trend in your notes, right? And then as you go, you're going to tick them off just to feel good about yourself. Then to do this, you're going to use your textbooks, you're going to watch some videos, worksheets, your notes, you're going to ask your teacher. Anything you need to tick those spec points off, you're going to do. Next, you're going to print out all the exam questions from when the new specification was released, so I believe 2016, might be wrong, don't quote me on that, to the present day. These are available on Physics and Maths Tutor, and you're going to do all of these. Then you're going to mark them, you're going to see how you did and reflect on your progress, and if you still have something that you really don't understand, you're going to go see your teacher and you're going to say, hey, I don't get this, can you explain this again? Can you give me some more resources so I can improve, etc. Cool, and then you should be fine. And then for Orange, let's say I'm doing a topic and I'm getting some of them, like I get the gist of it, but there's just still some errors that are happening. This likely means you need just a bit more practice. So what are we going to do? Again, we're going to go back to that specification and identify the points that you're not sure about. Maybe you know the trend in solubility of, sulfates for group 2, but you don't know the trend for hydroxides. So you're going to look at that specific point. And there's no point revising what you already know. You're going to make notes for that point, and then again, you're going to print out all of those questions and do them, and then reflect. Finally, green. You're already confident about this topic. You're getting most of them right. You're feeling good about yourself. Everything's going well. You're going to print out all of those questions again, like you've done before, and you're going to mark them. Now, you have to think quite critically for the green topics, because you might be being a bit overambitious here. So, you have to think, did I actually know that? Did I struggle? Was that really difficult for me? If you're struggling, you might want to think, maybe that was a red topic, orange topic. Sometimes I think I'm good at something, and then I do it, and I realise, no, I was not good at that. So you'd go back to red. And then finally, when you've done this, make sure also to prioritise the red topics, because you don't want to miss out a whole exam question, which could be like 12 marks because you don't know anything on a topic. Then orange, green, etc. Makes sense. After you've done this, do an exam paper. Make sure it's in timed conditions. You don't want to be kind of spending 4 hours on a paper. Cool. Just to explain in a way what I've said there with an example, this is my spec point. I've just picked a random kind of category. This is group 7, isn't it? So I'm going to identify my current level of understanding. This is red. I don't know anything about this. I keep getting it wrong. I'm getting 0 out of 10 on all my questions, etc. So I've highlighted it red. Then I've got out my yellow highlighter and I've said, okay, which parts of these are just memorization? The reaction of chlorine with water, the reaction of chlorine with water again, and the reaction of chlorine with sodium hydroxide. This I can learn at a later date by making and memorizing my flashcards. Next, the remaining spec points. Okay, by process of elimination, these ones must be the ones where I don't understand the kind of foundation of it. I don't understand the chemistry behind it. So I'm going to go through each one, and I'm actually going to make detailed notes on each one. Like I said, textbook, teacher, videos, friends, whatever you need to get it done. And because I want to feel some joy in my life, I'm going to tick when I've done it and I've covered it. Finally, then when I'm happy with all that, I'll do my questions and I'll see how I go. And then when I finish my questions, I'm going to tick the whole thing off. So by the red bit, I'm going to put tick to say, yes, I've addressed this problem. Everything's fine now. I understand this topic. And then finally, I really struggled in year 13 because I had no motivation. So I got some stickers and I put a sticker on every single time when I finished like a sub point just to kind of motivate me a bit. So that might help you. Might be something that works for you. But yeah, that is general kind of revision tips. I might do a video more in depth later on flashcards, mind maps, that kind of thing. But I feel like if you take some of this on board, it really might help you to get those top grades.